Hello, welcome. Happy Monday night, right? I'm here with Louisa Eiler, a licensed therapist and professor, and she's here to help me with all of the anxiety that we are feeling during this coronavirus. So, what are your tips, or how can I be better at this?
Well, yeah, there's so many different ways to approach this. And first of all, thanks for being brave enough to kind of say, hey, I'm really feeling a little different than I normally feel. So, I want to get a second opinion almost, right?
Yes.
And so the idea is that anxiety and stress and fear, one at a time, probably are things we could deal with, in our day-to-day lives. But then when they all happen at once in a very short sequence, it's almost like a tidal wave of emotions. And so your limbic system and sort of like the internal hardwire that keeps you normally grounded and centered and focused and able to do day-to-day stuff sort of gets overwhelmed. And so what you have to do is really take one emotion at a time. And so there's all of these emotional wheels, right? So for example, you might say that I feel stressed or, I'm anxious, but you have to sort of get to the deeper level of what is driving that. So is that anxiety fear-based, worry-based? Is it nervous-based? Is it preoccupation? Is it frustration? Is it,
All of the above. It's every single one of those things you just mentioned.
Yeah, so it's usually like a deeper thing. I'm going to see if I can pull something up on my phone to show you, and then I will send you the link so that you actually have it. So there are these, I'm going to put it in there. It's called a how are you feeling wheel. and I'll send it to you so that you have it. So for example, when you say you feel scared, some of the underlying emotions behind feeling scared are confused, helpless, insecure, numb, anxious, petrified. And then if you take it out even another layer, it's discouraged, weak, defensive, passive, impatient, and fearful. So what happens is, rather than just lumping it all together to say, I'm so anxious, you really got to dissect it and get it down to like a very granular thing, to really identify what it really is. And then you can start to kind of address, okay, now how do I deal with it, right? Because how you just deal with feeling afraid might be very different than how you deal with being frustrated. And if you're afraid because you're frustrated, how you go about solving that is going to be different because they're different variables.
So how do I solve it?
Okay, so let's take a typical day. So like when you wake up today, at what point do you sort of just get like that rush of like, holy crap, like this is real, like I really am, and then whatever the word is, like how long throughout your day does it take till you get to that point?
I think it's after breakfast. I mean, I've been waking up kind of late because I've been going to bed super late because I've been worried. George, stop itching. He's digging a hole in his dog bed. Stop it, George. You're making too much noise. But generally it's like I'll wake up and I'll be motivated and then I'll have breakfast and then I'll just be I just get tired after breakfast. I don't know.
Okay, so let's first by looking at what has changed in your life. Now, obviously, there is a pandemic and the world has changed, right? But generally speaking, in a typical life experience day, when you weren't be confined to your home, what would you normally do after breakfast?
Well, normally I would be in Los Angeles and I would either start cleaning my house or start getting my day started or going out, going to different interviews or going to my pool or just doing, other stuff than.
So you'd have something to do that would sort of be like routine and regular.
Yeah.
So the idea is you have to start establishing new routines, meaning you define a new normal, which means, so if in LA, you would normally like maybe go to a coffee shop or go see a friend or have an appointment or have an interview, you've got to, to whatever degree possible, kind of recreate a similar hybrid version in these new times. So for example, you can convert the meeting that used to have a friend with every day a new person that you call at a certain time. Or like when you used to go to the pool or you used to go and maybe go to an interview, that may be the time you allow yourself to go watch TV, or that may be the time that you allow yourself to read a book, or that might be the time you allow yourself to do something. You still have to look at it like it can't just be a free for all, or just because you can eat all day or watch TV all day, or like, you know, do your hair all day or whatever it is you want to do all day. What you have to try to do is to create some structure. So for example, when in my city, when we were finally confined to, okay, now you're not supposed to go outside, you have shelter in place order, I decided that I would have this rogue approach where come hell or high water, every day I was going to make a new video with a new card that had the date on it, keeping track of time. And that was sort of like, even though I could do anything that I want all day long, if I accomplish one goal every day, I'm still going to feel like I achieved something. And so when you have this kind of new laissez-faire schedule where in reality you could do whatever you wanted all day long, if you can say every day when you get up, kind of maybe even before you get out of bed and before you have breakfast, okay, what's the one thing I have to get done today? How will I feel like I won this day if I just did this one thing? And so maybe that's something that you could start as soon as tomorrow to kind of say, okay, if I do whatever I want all day, but I get this thing done, over time, you're going to start to feel better.
Well, one of the things I'm really panicking about is food, because right now I am scared to go to the grocery store and it's really hard to get food. Any tips for people who are panicking about food? Because I feel like that's a lot of people's worry. It's like food and toilet paper.
Well, there's lots of things, right? So there's lots of ways to look at this. So first of all, I'd like to say that is a legitimate fear. And the reason why that is a legitimate fear is in therapy world, there's sort of like the holy grail of therapy is this pyramid called Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Maybe you've heard of it. It's a triangle. There's 5 levels. You know, if you get to the top, you're Deepak Chopra and you're self-actualized. But the idea that is on that bottom basic level of this hierarchy of needs is food, clothing, water, shelter, sleep, actually sex, and excretion. So those are like the whole thing. And homeostasis falls in there too. But so this idea that people are actually worried about food, that's a legitimate fear. But the challenge is that sometimes people don't realize, you know, how little you can survive, you know, and actually right now is like the time of fasting and it's Holy Week and, Noah lived on the ark for 40 days. People have fasted for 21 days and haven't died. But this idea is to kind of space your meals out. Number one, not allow yourself to graze. And to your point of sort of having more structure in your day, I suggest that people start reestablishing meal times. Now, whether that's you need to eat 3 times or because you're sleeping in, you actually set it for twice a day to have at least 2 good meals in a day. That certainly would conserve food and that would keep your metabolism flowing, but it also would give you structure. So like step 1 would be, number 1, don't just allow yourself to graze. What you need to do is establish meal times. I'm very much a positive therapist, meaning that I try to not tell people what not to do. I try to tell people what they can do to make it better. So first, establish meal times. And then 2, without fail, try to avoid keeping a mental list of what you need and instead write it down. Because if you're thinking, oh, the next time I go out to the store, I need to get this and I need to get this and I need to get this and I can't forget this and I got to remember this. That actually adds anxiety because your brain has something inside of it called the amygdala. And the amygdala in your brain is exactly like the search bar in Google or any search engine. So like, let's say you put, I want Lauren, or Lauren, you put Lauren Francesca in the search. You're going to get like 100 pages of Lauren, right? Or maybe more. And so your brain is just like that. And so if you put stuff in there that you have to try to get it to remember, it's going to remember, like, let's just say, oh, I have to remember to get milk, or I have to remember to get toilet paper. Whenever you go to the grocery store, if that is not on a list that's written in front of you, your brain is going to remember every single time your entire life that you went to the grocery store to try to remember toilet paper, because that's how the brain works. It's got those 100 pages of every other time you went to get toilet paper. So make a list. And if you want to be even smarter about it, think of your grocery store and visualize yourself grocery shopping before you go there, so that when you're actually in the grocery store, that you know, okay, the milk and the bread and the butter are in this part of the store. The meat is in this part of the store. So when you organize your grocery list, make it as close to what it would actually be in the store as possible. Because prior to quarantine and prior to this mess that we're in, you could just spend all day there and it'd be fun and you do the sampling. But now it's like, stay 6 feet apart. They're having lines to, reduce the number of people in the store at the same time. And so as fast as you can be and as organized and proactive as you can be, that's going to make it easier for you. So those are just a few tips that definitely would cut down on that.
Now, one of my final questions, even though I do not have a loved one with me, do you have any advice for people who are dealing with domestic violence or any issues like that right now? Because I feel like that's I can't imagine being locked up with somebody in my house that I would fight with. And is that something that you get questions about?
That's actually something I get a lot. And I want to get the right number for the national hotline, since I know that there's a lot of people that listen to this, because I've been giving out our local number. And there's actually the national domestic hotline number is 1-800-799-7233. And that is the National Domestic Violence Hotline. So, what's really interesting when you look at this from a deeper level is the real statistics on domestic violence are that it takes the average person, whether it's a male or female, in an abusive relationship, whether it's physical abuse or emotional abuse, 5 to 7 attempts before they actually leave, because they're working up the courage to leave, or they're afraid, or they don't know what else to do. When we really look at what could happen during this time, is this could be the time where people know that this may be a good time because they don't have an alternative. And so the folks at these national domestic violence hotline numbers, they realize this and they're taking it seriously. So if you are someone who's in a relationship right now and you feel like this is the time, do not let the pandemic stop you from getting the help that you need. The resources for domestic violence are still the same, and they've been prepared for stuff like this, and they are always ready. So there is someone who can help you. Things that you can do are, if you choose that, maybe this isn't the time that you're ready and you're just still thinking about it, again, start visualizing in your head the steps that you would need to do to get out, and think about your safety, because rather than myself or even you as an expert in someone's situation, whoever's living that domestic violence right now, believe me, if you're listening, I know that you are your own expert. There's no one anywhere who knows more about your situation than you do, and you'll know when the time is right. But I just want to encourage people that if it is this time now and they're ready, do not let the pandemic stop you. There are resources that are ready.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much, Louisa. This has been amazing. And thanks for taking the time. I'm sure a lot of you guys have questions, and I just wanted to talk to, because I know so many people are at home right now struggling. So I'm so appreciative that we got the chance to talk to you. And guys, if you have more questions, maybe we'll do another interview in the future. Leave them in the comments below, or they can write you. What's your social media? Everywhere is just at Louisa Eiler, or
yep, at Louisa Eiler, LOUISAEYLER. And if you have other questions, send them to Lauren. She can field them to me. And if there's something you really want to hear or something you want to talk about, let us know.
Yeah. And guys, just because you're home doesn't mean that if you have an issue, you can't talk to somebody. There's so many therapists right now that are really working full time from home, and you can just schedule a telehealth consult. Is that super easy to do, or?
Yep. It's super easy to do. The federal government has made it opportunity right now for any therapist to be able to give telehealth, even therapists who previously had to stay in an office. And so if you need a therapist, first call your regular therapy office, and there should be a contact information, or you can call the National Mental Health Hotline as well. Just Google National Mental Health Hotline and they can direct you right to your state.
That's amazing. Thank you so much. And
you're welcome.
Guys, follow her, and let us know in the comments if there's any other questions. Thanks. Bye.
Take care. Stay safe.